History is often told through the clamor of crowds. We remember the shouting, the marching, the crack of thunder, and the roar of the speeches that changed the world. We see the black and white footage of a man with a furrowed brow, pointing a finger at the sky, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. But tonight we are going to look away from the podium. We are going to step out of the spotlight and into the quiet corners of a life lived in constant metamorphosis. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the mind of a man who was, in his short time on this earth, many different people. He was a Midwestern boy terrified of the night riders. He was a dancer in the smoky ballrooms of Boston. He was a prisoner copying a dictionary in the dim light of a cell. And finally, he was a pilgrim walking the hot sands of Arabia in white robes. They called him Red. They called him Satan. They called him Malcolm X. And finally, they called him El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. But before the names, before the legend, there was just a heartbeat. There was a search, a relentless, quiet, and burning search for truth. So, settle in. Let the worries of your own day fade into the margins. Close your eyes and let us travel back to the windswept plains of the 1920s to witness the beginning of a storm. Chapter 1. The Garveyites' Son, 1925-1931. To understand the man, we must first understand the soil from which he grew. And that soil was hard, cold, and often unforgiving. It begins in Omaha, Nebraska. The year is 1925. Imagine a small wooden house standing alone against the vastness of the American Midwest. In May, the spring rains in Nebraska are heavy. They hammer against the roof like 1,000 tiny drums, washing away the dust of the plains. Inside this house, the air is thick with anticipation. On the 19th of May, a cry breaks the rhythm of the rain. Malcolm Little is born. He is the 7th child of his father, the 4th of his mother. He enters a world where the color of his skin defines the boundaries of his existence before he has even opened his eyes. But inside the Little household, there is a different kind of energy. It is a house filled with words. His father, the Reverend Earl Little, is a man of imposing stature. He is tall, jet black, and carries himself with the weight of a man who knows he is being watched. Earl is not just a Baptist minister. He is a dedicated organizer for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. Imagine the sound of Earl's voice in the evenings. It is a deep baritone rumble that seems to vibrate the floorboards. He speaks of Africa, a place none of them have seen, but which he paints with words as a paradise of dignity and self-reliance. Malcolm's earliest memories are sensory fragments. He remembers the smell of the damp wool of his father's coat when he returned from a meeting. He remembers the scent of the wood stove, the only source of heat against the biting Nebraska wind. And he remembers the tension. Fear in the Little household was not a panic. It was a constant, low-frequency vibration. It was the sound of a car slowing down on the gravel road outside in the middle of the night. It was the way his mother, Louise, would freeze while washing dishes, her head tilted toward the window, listening. Louise Little was a woman of Grenadian heritage, fair-skinned and educated. She was the anchor of the home. Where Earl was fire and thunder, Louise was water and stone. She was strict, perhaps too strict, driven by the anxiety of raising black children in a world that wished them harm. She filled the house with the smell of baking bread and the sound of French, which she sometimes spoke to, confused the children. When Malcolm was still an infant, barely able to walk, the violence that shadowed his father finally struck. One night, while Earl was away preaching, a group of men, the Ku Klux Klan, surrounded the house. Imagine the terrifying spectacle: horses stamping on the ground, torches flickering in the dark, casting long, dancing shadows through the windows. They shouted for Earl. Louise, with the courage of a lioness, walked out to face them, her pregnant belly swollen, holding her children behind her. She told them he wasn't there. They shattered the windows before riding off into the dark. This is the atmosphere Malcolm breathes in. He learns that the night is not safe. He learns that safety is fragile. Soon after, the family moves. They pack their meager belongings into boxes, clothes, pots, and the precious books that Earl refused to part with. They travel east, first to Milwaukee and then to Lansing, Michigan. They are looking for peace, but the shadow follows them. In 1929, the family builds a new home in Lansing. It is a modest structure on the outskirts of town. Malcolm is 4 years old now. He is a light-skinned child, his hair reddish-brown, earning him the nickname Red. He is energetic, rude, and demanding. He realizes early on that making noise gets him attention. But the most vivid memory of this time is not a sound, but a color. Orange, bright, consuming orange against the black sky. One night, Malcolm wakes to a roar that is not the wind. It is the sound of fire. The house is burning. The pistol shots ring out in the darkness, a warning from the arsonists. The family tumbles out into the cold night air, the grass wet with dew under their bare feet. Stand there with them for a moment. Feel the heat of the flames on your face, contrasting with the freezing air at your back. Watch as the structure, the walls, the roof, the table where they ate, the bed where they slept, collapses into a heap of glowing embers. The firemen arrive, but they do not spray the water on the house. They stand back. They watch it burn. The family is left with nothing but the clothes on their backs and each other. Yet, amidst this chaos, there are moments of profound stillness. Malcolm loves to go with his father to the UNIA meetings. Picture a small, smoky hall, men and women in their Sunday best, their faces tired from labor, but eyes bright with hope. They sing, "Up, you mighty race." Malcolm sits on his father's lap, feeling the rumble of the song in his father's chest. He looks at the maps of Africa on the wall. He doesn't understand the politics yet, but he understands the feeling. It is a feeling of belonging. He also remembers the garden. The little family, despite their poverty, ate well because they grew everything. Imagine the smell of the freshly turned earth in the Michigan spring. Malcolm follows his mother through the rows of vegetables. He sees the green shoots of corn, the broad leaves of the collard greens. He learns the patience of nature. You plant a seed, you water it, you wait. This is a lesson he will forget, and then relearn many years later. But the soil of his childhood is about to be watered with tragedy. As 1931 approaches, the mood in the house shifts. Earl Little becomes more agitated. He argues with Louise. He paces the floor. He feels the net tightening. On a cold day in late September, Earl puts on his coat. He brushes off his hat. He tells Louise he is going into town to collect money from people who bought rabbit meat from them. Louise has a premonition. She begs him not to go. She stands by the door, her hands wringing her apron, a cold dread in her stomach. Earl laughs it off. He is a big man. He is not afraid. He walks out the door, his boots crunching on the gravel. Malcolm watches him go. He watches the silhouette of his father getting smaller and smaller as he walks down the road, vanishing into the gray mist of the afternoon. It is the last time Malcolm will ever see him alive. The silence that descends on the house that evening is heavy. It is a silence that waits. And when the knock on the door finally comes, late at night, it is not the knock of a father returning home. It is the knock of a messenger bringing the end of the world. Chapter 2. The Unraveling of the Nest. 1931-1939. Grief is a landscape. It has hills and valleys, dark forests and dry deserts. For 6-year-old Malcolm, the landscape of his life changed overnight from a place of vibrant, dangerous color to a world of gray uncertainty. The news of Earl Little's death was gruesome. Found on the streetcar tracks, his body broken. The authorities called it an accident. The community and Louise knew it was murder. But for a child, the politics of the death mattered less than the absence of the man. The chair at the head of the table was empty. The deep voice that filled the room was gone. The coat that smelled of wool and cold air hung on the hook, gathering dust. We now enter the period of the slow unraveling. This is not a sudden explosion, but a gradual erosion, like water wearing down a stone. Louise Little, now a widow with 8 children to feed in the depths of the Great Depression, becomes a fortress under siege. The enemy is not just poverty, it is the state. It is the welfare system. It is the cold judgment of a society that does not believe a black woman can raise her children alone. Imagine the interior of the house during these long, hard years. The windows are often frosted over with ice. The stove is fed with whatever wood the boys can scold from the nearby woods. The food becomes simpler, scarcer, cornbread, dandelion greens gathered from the yard, sometimes just water and flour. But Louise fights. She fights with dignity. She works odd jobs, sewing, cleaning, until her hands are raw. When she comes home, she doesn't collapse. She educates. She insists on cleanliness. She insists on proper English. She insists that her children are royalty in exile, not beggars. Malcolm watches his mother with a mix of awe and terror. He sees the strain in her eyes. He hears her muttering to herself as she scrubs the floor. The stress is a physical weight in the room, pressing down on them all. Then the visitors begin. They are welfare caseworkers, white men and women who come to the house with clipboards and prying eyes. Listen to the sound of their shoes on the wooden floor, hard, authoritative clicks. They do not take off their hats. They ask questions that are not questions, but accusations. Why is the house cold? Why are the children so thin? Why do you not smile? Malcolm hates them. He calls them ghosts. They hover around the family, looking for cracks. And they find them. They sow discord. They tell the older boys that the mother is unstable. They tell the mother the boys are delinquents. They plant seeds of doubt in the garden where Earl and Louise had planted pride. During this time, Malcolm begins to change. The grief metabolizes into mischief. If he cannot control his world, he will disrupt it. He becomes a thief of small things, an apple from a store, a trinket from a neighbor. He shoots rabbits in the fields, not just for food, but to feel the power of the trigger. He is hungry. Physically hungry, yes, but also hungry for a control he cannot name. The sensory details of this hunger are sharp. It is the gnawing emptiness in the stomach that keeps you awake at night. It is the dizziness in the middle of a school day. It is the shame of standing in line for government handouts, feeling the eyes of the town upon you. But the true tragedy happens in the mind of Louise Little. Imagine the sound of a pen scratching on paper, day after day, night after night. Louise writes letters. She writes to the government, to the insurance company that refuses to pay Earl's life insurance, to relatives who cannot help. She writes until her fingers cramp. The scratching of the pen becomes the soundtrack of Malcolm's evenings. It is a desperate SOS signal, sent out into a void that does not answer. The light in her eyes begins to dim. She stops cooking. She stops cleaning. She sits for hours, staring at a spot on the wall, having conversations with people who are not there. The children watch, helpless. They try to keep the house running, but they are just children. The center cannot hold. The day the state finally intervenes is a blur of confusion and heartbreak. It is 1939. Malcolm is nearly 14. The ghosts have won. They declare Louise unfit. They declare her insane. The separation is surgical and cruel. A car arrives. Men in white coats. Louise does not scream. She does not fight. By this point, the fight has been drained out of her. She walks out of the house, her back straight, but her spirit shattered. She is taken to the Kalamazoo State Hospital. The children are scattered like seeds in the wind. Different foster homes, different towns. The family, the unit that had survived fire and the Klan, is dismantled by a signature on a piece of paper. Malcolm is sent to live with the Gohanas, a kindly family, but they are not his family. He feels a coldness settle into his chest. It is a numbness that will protect him, but it will also harden him. He visits his mother in the hospital. Picture the scene: the smell of antiseptic, the echoing hallways, the heavy metal doors. He sees his mother, but she is a shell. She barely recognizes him. The woman who stood down the Ku Klux Klan, who taught him to read, who scrubbed his clothes until they were spotless, is gone. This is the moment the first Malcolm dies. The boy who believed in the safety of parents, in the warmth of a kitchen stove, in the promise of a garden, is buried under the weight of the state. In his place, a new Malcolm begins to form. He is watchful, he is cynical, he is smart, terrifyingly smart, and he realizes that in this world, if you want to survive, you cannot show your heart. You must wear a mask. He is doing well in school at Mason Junior High. He is popular. He is the class president, but he is a mascot. He is treated like a prize pet, a good black boy who knows his place. He smiles, he laughs, he studies. But behind the eyes, the storm is gathering again. He is waiting for an exit. And that exit will come in the form of a bus ticket to a place called Boston, where the lights are bright, the jazz is loud, and a sister named Ella is waiting to show him a world he never dreamed existed. Chapter 3: The Mascot, 1939-1941. We find Malcolm now in Mason, Michigan. He is 14 years old. He has been uprooted from the soil of his family and replanted in the home of the Gohanas. They are good people, charitable, religious, kind in the way that people are kind to a stray animal. But kindness, Malcolm learns, can sometimes feel like a wall of glass. You can see through it, but you cannot touch the world on the other side. In Mason, Malcolm is a novelty. He is one of the very few black faces in a sea of white. To survive, to keep the darkness of his mother's breakdown at bay, he adapts. He becomes the mascot. Imagine the hallways of Mason Junior High. It is a world of linoleum floors and metal lockers. Malcolm walks these halls with a smile that he wears like armor. He is popular. He is elected class president in the 7th grade. He plays basketball. He is smart, sharper than the boys who call him friend. But listen closely to the conversations. Listen to the laughter in the cafeteria. The white students, and even the teachers, speak around him with a casual, devastating familiarity. They use the racial slurs of the time not with venom, but with indifference. They tell jokes about darkies and coons right in front of him. And what does Malcolm do? He laughs. He laughs because it is the price of admission. He laughs because if he stops laughing, the silence will be too loud. He dances the jig they want him to dance. He describes this time later as being like a pink poodle, a pet that is pampered, patted on the head, but never considered human. He is allowed in the house, but he is not of the house. He works small jobs. He washes dishes at a restaurant. He sees the older white men, the pillars of the community, when their guard is down. He sees their hypocrisy, their roughness. He begins to catalog these observations, storing them away in the back of his mind like ammunition. But the moment that shatters the glass, the moment the mascot dies and the rebel is born, happens in a classroom. It is 1941. The classroom smells of chalk dust and old paper. The afternoon sun slants through the high windows, illuminating the floating motes of dust. Mr. Ostrowski is the English teacher. He is a man Malcolm admires. Mr. Ostrowski has praised Malcolm's grades. He has encouraged him. Malcolm trusts him. One afternoon, Mr. Ostrowski is grading papers at his desk. He calls Malcolm over. The interaction is quiet, intimate, just a teacher and his star pupil. "Malcolm," he asks, leaning back in his chair, the wood creaking, "have you been thinking about a career? Have you been thinking about what you want to be?" Malcolm's chest swells. He has been thinking. He has been thinking about the power of words, about arguments, about justice. "Yes, sir," he says, his voice steady. "I've been thinking I'd like to be a lawyer." Time seems to stop in the room. Mr. Ostrowski looks at Malcolm. He doesn't look with hatred. He looks with a pitying, paternalistic surprise. He chuckles, a dry, rasping sound. "Malcolm," he says, "one of life's first needs is for us to be realistic. Don't misunderstand me now. We all like you here, you know that, but you've got to be realistic about being a nigger. A lawyer, that's no realistic goal for a nigger." The word hangs in the air. It sucks the oxygen out of the room. Mr. Ostrowski continues, oblivious to the devastation he has caused. He suggests carpentry. "You're good with your hands," he says. "People like you." Malcolm stands there. He feels the blood rushing in his ears. He looks at Mr. Ostrowski's face, the face of the benevolent teacher, and sees the bars of the cage. He realizes in a flash of white-hot clarity that it doesn't matter how smart he is. It doesn't matter that he is class president. It doesn't matter that he wears his suits pressed and his shoes shined. To them, he will always be a carpenter, a servant, a thing to be used. He smiles, nods, and walks out of the room, but he is finished. He withdraws. The smile vanishes. He stops engaging in class. The pink poodle snaps its leash. He begins to look at the people of Mason not as friends, but as captors. He writes to his half-sister Ella in Boston. He visited her the previous summer, and the memory of that visit burns in his mind like a beacon. Ella is big. She is jet black, proud, and strong. She is everything his mother was before the breakdown, but with a hardness that the world has not yet cracked. She invites him to come and live with her, and so Malcolm packs his cardboard suitcase. He says goodbye to the Gohannas. He says goodbye to the rolling hills of Michigan, to the grave of his father, to the asylum that holds his mother. He boards a Greyhound bus, feel the rumble of the engine beneath the seat, smell the diesel fumes, watch the landscape of the Midwest, the cornfields, the small towns, the silos, blister and fade into the distance. He is leaving the country. He is heading for the city, and he has no idea that he is heading straight into the fire. Chapter 4. The Hill and the City, 1941-1942, Boston, 1941. To a boy from the cornfields of Michigan, Boston is an assault on the senses. It is a kaleidoscope of noise, speed, and concrete. The air smells of the ocean, exhaust, and frying grease. The buildings loom over him like giants. Malcolm moves into Ella's house in Roxbury, specifically the section known as The Hill. This is the enclave of the black middle class. The people here are proud. They are professionals, doctors, lawyers, postmen. They speak with affected accents, mimicking the white Bostonians. They pride themselves on their respectability, They are distanced from the uncouth blacks of the ghetto. Ella wants Malcolm to be part of this world. She wants him to finish school, to find a nice girl, to integrate into the Hills' polite society. But Malcolm is restless. He walks the streets, his eyes wide, absorbing everything. And what calls to him is not the stiffness of the hill, but the vibrant, chaotic energy of the town, the lower end of Roxbury where the working class lives, where the nightlife pulses. He gets a job at the Roseland State Ballroom as a shoeshine boy. But before he enters that world fully, he meets a guide, a small, wiry man named Shorty. Shorty is a musician, a hustler, a man of the street. He sees the country bumpkin in Malcolm, the ill-fitting suit, the dusty shoes, the wide-eyed stare. But he also sees the hunger. He takes Malcolm under his wing. Shorty introduces Malcolm to the true currency of the street, style. In 1941, style is everything. It is a declaration of existence. It is the zoot suit, the long drape coat, the pegged trousers, the wide-brimmed hat, the long watch chain swinging with a rhythm of its own. But the ultimate symbol of assimilation, the ultimate ticket to the city cool, is the hair, the conch. This moment, Malcolm's first conch, is a ritual of pain and transformation. It is a scene that defines the era. Picture the cramped bathroom of Shorty's apartment. The air is thick with humidity and the smell of chemicals. Shorty is mixing the concoction in a jar, a lethal blend of lye, potatoes, and eggs. Lye is caustic. It burns skin on contact. It is used to unclog drains. And they are about to put it on their heads. "It's gonna burn," Shorty warns him, "but you gotta take it. You gotta be a man about it." Malcolm sits on the edge of the tub. He is terrified but determined. He wants to look like the cats in the city. He wants to erase the kinky, reddish hair that marks him as red from the country. He wants to be sleek. He wants to be white. Shorty combs the lye into Malcolm's hair. At first, it feels cold. Then, the heat begins. It starts as a tingle, then a prickle, and then fire. It feels as if someone has placed a red-hot iron skillet directly onto his scalp. Malcolm grits his teeth. He grips the edge of the sink until his knuckles turn white. The pain is blinding. Every nerve ending in his head is screaming. He wants to scream, to wash it off, but he holds on. He looks in the mirror, tears streaming down his face, watching the chemicals do their work. "Comb it!" he gasps. Shorty combs. The hair straightens. The curls dissolve. The defiance of his natural texture is chemically beaten into submission. Finally, unable to take it a second longer, Malcolm plunges his head under the faucet. The water hisses. The relief is instant, but the scalp is raw, tender, chemically burned. But when he stands up and looks in the mirror, the pain is forgotten. Staring back at him is not Malcolm Little from Lansing. Staring back is a new creature. His hair is slick, straight, and red, lying flat against his skull like a helmet of copper. He looks like the white men he sees in the movies. He looks sharp. He grins at his reflection. He is proud. Years later, Malcolm X would look back on this moment with a profound shame. He would see it as the ultimate degradation, a black man willing to burn his own flesh to look like his oppressor. He would call it a step into self-hatred. But in 1941, in that steamy bathroom in Boston, he does not see the tragedy. He sees only the mask. He puts on his suit. He walks out into the neon night of Roxbury. He struts. The country boy is dead. Red has arrived, and the ballroom is waiting. Chapter 5. The Ballroom Floor, 1942-1943. The year is 1942. The world is at war. Across the oceans, in Europe and the Pacific, the sky is filled with flak and the ground shakes with artillery. But in Boston, in the Roseland State Ballroom, the war feels a million miles away. Here, the only battle is for the center of the floor, and the only weapon is rhythm. We follow Malcolm, now fully transformed into red, as he steps through the doors. The Roseland is a temple of the night. It is a cavernous space dimly lit by chandeliers that cast a golden, hazy glow through the clouds of cigarette smoke. The air is hot, heavy, and smells of cologne, hair pomade, and perspiration. It is a sensory wall that hits you the moment you enter. Malcolm is 17, tall, lanky, and electric with energy. He is wearing his zoot suit. Let us look at him closely. The suit is a sharkskin gray shimmering under the lights. The coat is long, draping down to his knees, with shoulder pads that make him look twice as broad. The pants are high-waisted, billowing out at the knees and then pegging tightly at the ankles. A gold watch chain loops from his belt to his pocket, swaying with every step he takes. And atop his head, the conch, that chemically straightened masterpiece, shines like red lacquer. He is not just a participant here, he is a performer. He moves toward the floor. The bandstand is elevated, a throne for the kings of jazz. Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Lionel Hampton. Listen to the sound of the brass. It is sharp, punchy, aggressive. The trumpets scream, the trombones growl, and the saxophones weave a melody that grabs you by the spine. Malcolm finds a partner. The dance is the Lindy Hop. It is not a gentle sway. It is an athletic explosion. It is a release of all the tension, all the suppression, all the rage of being black in a white man's world. On this floor, for 3 minutes at a time, he is free. Watch him move. He spins his partner, her skirt flaring out like a flower. He kicks, he slides, he dips. The sweat pours down his face, stinging his eyes, but he doesn't stop. He is lost in the syncopation. The floor vibrates beneath his feet, a physical pulse that connects everyone in the room. In these moments, Malcolm is not the son of a murdered preacher. He is not the mascot of Mason Junior High. He is a king of the nightlife. He feels powerful. He feels seen. But the ballroom is also a place of dangerous intersections. It is here that the racial lines of Boston blur, if only in the shadows. One night, Malcolm catches the eye of a woman. She is white. In the autobiography, she is called Sophia. She is blonde, well-dressed, clearly from the other side of the tracks, from Beacon Hill, the world of old money and high society. In 1942, a black man looking at a white woman is dangerous. A black man dancing with one is a provocation. A black man dating one is inviting death. But Malcolm is intoxicated by the taboo. He approaches her. The air between them is charged with a friction that is not just attraction, but rebellion. When she agrees to dance with him, when she leaves with him, Malcolm feels a surge of triumph. This relationship becomes his status symbol. He parades her through the black neighborhoods of Roxbury. He brings her to the clubs. He wants everyone to see. "Look at me," his presence screams. "I have what the white man prizes most." He does not love her. He barely knows her. She is an object to him, just as he is an object to her, a walk on the wild side, a rebellion against her own stuffy upbringing. They are two people using each other to hurt a society that demands they stay apart. But this status comes with a heavy price. Malcolm begins to drift further away from the moral center his mother had instilled in him. He starts working as a valet on the Yankee Clipper train, traveling between Boston and New York. He begins to sell marijuana to the musicians. He starts to carry a gun. The sensory world of his life is becoming sharper, harder. The soft edges of his youth are gone. Now it is the click of a switchblade. It is the crinkle of cash in a pocket. It is the harsh chemical smell of the lie he still puts on his hair every few weeks. burning his scalp to maintain the mask. He is successful by the standards of the street. He has the clothes, the car, the white girlfriend, the reputation. But underneath the zoot suit, the soul is hollowing out. He is becoming a predator because he believes it is the only way to avoid being prey. One night, standing outside the ballroom, the snow falling softly on the streets of Boston, Malcolm looks south. He looks toward the horizon where the train tracks lead. He has heard the stories. He has heard the whispers. Boston is just a village. The real city, the capital of the black world, is waiting. Harlem. The word tastes like promise. The word tastes like gold. And as 1943 dawns, Malcolm Red packs his bags. He is done with the minor leagues. He is going to the show. Chapter 6, The Harlem Night, 1943-1944. There is no arrival in American history quite like the arrival in Harlem during the 1940s. For a black man in the mid-20th century, Harlem was not just a neighborhood in New York City. It was Zion. It was the Emerald City. It was the center of the universe. Malcolm arrives on the Yankee Clipper. He steps off the train at Grand Central Terminal, or perhaps gets off uptown at 125th Street. The first thing that hits him is the scale. If Boston was a loud room, Harlem is a roaring stadium. The avenues are wide, teeming with humanity. 7th Avenue is a river of black faces, hundreds of thousands of people. Men in wide-brimmed hats, women in furs, laborers, artists, hustlers, preachers. The energy is frantic. It is a place that never sleeps, a place where the sidewalk itself seems to vibrate with ambition. Malcolm is mesmerized. He walks the streets in a daze. He sees the Apollo Theater, its marquee blazing with 1,000 light bulbs, announcing the names of legends. Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Dizzy Gillespie. He passes the Savoy Ballroom, where the dancers are even faster, even wilder than in Boston. He gets a job at Small's Paradise. It is one of the premier bars in Harlem. This is his classroom. This is where he will earn his PhD in the psychology of the hustle. Picture Small's Paradise. It is an intimate, smoky, high-class joint. The waiters dance the trays to the tables, spinning and twirling, never spilling a drop. Malcolm, with his natural charm and his waiter's uniform, fits right in. He listens. He listens to the men at the bar. These are not the petty thieves of Roxbury. These are the old heads, the numbers runners, the pimps, the professional gamblers. They wear suits that cost more than a car. They speak a language of code and metaphor. They are the aristocracy of the underworld. Malcolm serves them drinks. He lights their cigars. And he studies them. He learns that in Harlem, silence is golden. He learns that you never trust a smile. He learns that everyone is running a game. He is particularly drawn to a man named West Indian Archie. Archie is an older hustler, a man with a photographic memory who runs numbers. He doesn't write anything down. He holds the bets in his head. Archie sees potential in Malcolm. He sees the quick wit, the ruthlessness. He takes Red, now Detroit Red, under his wing. But the sensory experience of Harlem is not just the glamour of the bars. It is also the grim reality of the tenements. Malcolm lives in a rooming house. The walls are thin. He hears the arguments next door, the crying of babies, the sound of rats scratching in the walls. He smells the cabbage cooking in the hallway, mingling with the stale scent of beer. To support his lifestyle, the suits, the conks, the nightlife, he begins to slide deeper into crime. It starts small, selling reefer. Then, steering white customers to illicit spots. Then armed robbery. The atmosphere of his life shifts from the excitement of the dance floor to the paranoia of the back alley. The lighting of his story changes. It goes from the gold of the chandelier to the flickering neon of a dive bar and the harsh glare of a street lamp. He begins to carry a pistol. He starts using cocaine to stay awake, to keep the edge sharp. The drug makes him feel invincible, but it also makes him jagged. His eyes, once bright with curiosity, become hard and glassy. He stops sleeping. He is always moving, always watching his back. There is a specific scene that captures this descent. It is late at night, or perhaps early morning. Malcolm is in a small, cramped apartment with fellow hustlers. The shades are drawn. The room is filled with blue smoke. They are counting money, crumpled bills, silver coins. A radio plays softly in the corner, a slow, mournful blues. Malcolm looks at his hands. They are shaking slightly. He takes a drag of a cigarette. He looks at the faces around him, men who are aging fast, men whose eyes are empty. He wonders, for a fleeting second, if this is it, if this is the summit. But the thought is drowned out by the noise of the city outside, the siren of a police car wailing in the distance, the laughter of a woman on the street, the relentless pulse of Harlem. He pushes the doubt away. He is Detroit Red. He is a big shot. He has conquered the city. But the city has a way of eating its young. The web is tightening. West Indian Archie, his mentor, will soon turn on him over a misunderstood bet. The police are watching. The rival hustlers are watching. Malcolm is standing on a trapdoor, and he doesn't even know it. The fall is coming, and when he falls, he will fall all the way to the bottom of the pit. Chapter 7. The Hustler's Trap, 1904-1945. The year is 1904. The lights of Harlem, once warm and inviting like a hearth, have turned cold. The city that Detroit Red thought he had conquered is now closing in on him. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from living outside the law. It is not a physical tiredness. It is a spiritual fatigue. It is the inability to ever fully close your eyes. Malcolm is 19 years old, but inside he is ancient. His nerves are frayed wires, buzzing with cocaine and adrenaline. The trap snaps shut not with a police siren, but with a whisper. West Indian Archie, the man who had been a mentor, a father figure of the underworld, the man with the photographic memory. One afternoon, the memory fails. A number is played. Archie says it wasn't. Malcolm says it was. In the world of the hustle, your word is your bond. If your word breaks, you break. Picture the scene in Archie's apartment. It is midday, but the curtains are drawn against the sun. The air is still. Archie sits in a chair, his face a mask of stone. Malcolm stands opposite him. The tension is so thick, it feels like humidity. "Red," Archie says softly. "You calling me a liar?" Malcolm knows the rules. To back down is to admit weakness. To stand up is to invite death. He stands his ground. He puts his hand in his pocket, gripping the cold steel of his .32 caliber pistol. He doesn't draw it, but the threat is there, hanging in the room like a heavy smoke. He backs out of the room, but the damage is done. The word goes out on the street. Detroit Red is a marked man. Now, the sensory experience of Harlem changes completely. It becomes a labyrinth of threats. Every shadow looks like an assassin. Every car that slows down sends a jolt of electricity through his spine. He stops sleeping in his own bed. He sleeps on the floors of friends' apartments, his gun under his pillow, his eyes snapping open at the sound of a creaking floorboard. The paranoia is a physical weight. It presses on his chest. He walks the streets in a daze, high, armed, and terrified. He realizes, with a sinking dread, that the glamour is gone. There is no jazz music playing now. There is only the silence of the hunter and the hunted. He needs an escape hatch, and it appears once again in the form of a train ticket back to Boston. The return to Boston is not a homecoming, it is a retreat. He arrives back in Roxbury, but he is not the same boy who left. The wonder is gone. The innocence is long dead. He is harder, colder, more cynical. He reconnects with Shorty. He reconnects with Sophia, his white girlfriend, but he cannot go back to shining shoes. The hustle is in his blood now. He needs money, and he needs it fast. He organizes a burglary ring. It is a precise, ruthless operation. The team consists of Malcolm, Shorty, a black friend named Rudy, Sophia, and her sister. The dynamic is volatile. A group of black men and white women moving through the segregated city of Boston in 1945 is a walking powder keg. But Malcolm thrives on the danger. He uses the women as scouts. They enter the wealthy homes of Beacon Hill and Brookline, the very world they come from, posing as potential buyers or visitors. They unlock a window. They leave a latch open. Then, at night, the men return. Let us step into one of these nights. It is 2:06 a.m. The suburbs of Boston are silent, draped in the heavy velvet of sleep. The houses are large, imposing structures of brick and stone. Malcolm slips through a window. The air inside the house is different. It smells of old money, mahogany polish, expensive perfume, wool carpets. It is a smell of safety and entitlement. He moves through the dark rooms like a ghost. He wears sneakers to muffle his steps. His heart beats a slow, steady rhythm against his ribs. This is the only time he feels calm, when he is violating the sanctuary of the people who despise him. He touches the objects in the dark, a silver candlestick, a heavy gold watch, a fur coat. These are not just things, they are pieces of the power that has been denied to him. Taking them feels like a small, twisted act of retribution, but there is a recklessness growing in him, a nihilism. He starts taking unnecessary risks. He carries the stolen goods in plain sight. He flaunts his relationship with the white women. He is challenging the universe to stop him. He is like a man running down a steep hill, his legs moving faster than his body can handle. Gravity is taking over. He knows he is going to crash. He almost wants to crash, and the crash comes over something small, a stolen watch, a broken crystal. He takes it to a jewelry shop for repair. It is a foolish, sloppy mistake. The police are waiting. The end of Detroit Red does not come in a blaze of glory. It comes with the click of handcuffs in a quiet shop, the cold metal biting into his wrists, and the realization that the running is finally over. Chapter 8, The Iron Gate, 1946-1947. February 1946, the Middlesex County Superior Court in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The courtroom is a theater of wood and stone, designed to intimidate. The ceilings are high, the benches are hard. The air is stale, recycled through generations of judgments. Malcolm stands before the judge. He is 20 years old. He wears a suit, but it looks like a costume now. Beneath him stand Shorty and the two white women, Sophia and her sister. The trial is a farce. It is not a trial about burglary. It is a trial about taboos. The state prosecutor does not focus on the stolen silverware or the watches. He focuses on the women. He parades them before the jury. He asks with feigned shock how these upstanding white women could be involved with these black men. The narrative in the courtroom is clear. The women are victims. They were seduced, drugged, coerced by these animals. Malcolm and Shorty are not just thieves, they are defilers. Malcolm watches the proceedings with a detached cynicism. He sees the eyes of the jury, 12 white men. He sees the disgust in their faces. It is not the disgust for a thief. It is the disgust for a black man who dared to cross the sexual color line. The defense lawyers are useless. The women, to save themselves, turn on the men. They claim they were afraid. They claim they were forced. When the sentencing comes, it is a hammer blow. For a first-time burglary offense, the average sentence is 2 years, perhaps probation. The judge looks at Malcolm, he looks at Shorty, he sees the zoot suits, he sees the arrogance, but mostly he sees the white women who were with them. 10 years, the judge says, 8 to 10 years in the state penitentiary. The words hang in the air. 10 years. Malcolm is 20. Half his life is about to be erased. He is handcuffed. He is led away. The doors of the courtroom swing shut, sealing off the world of light, of women, of music, of choice. He is transported to the Charlestown State Prison. It is an ancient, rotting fortress built in 1805. It stands like a tombstone in the middle of the city. The sensory shock of entering prison is violent. It is an assault on the humanity of the individual. First, there is the smell. It hits him the moment he walks through the intake gate. It is the smell of unwashed bodies, of strong disinfectant, of boiled cabbage, and of the bucket, the open toilet that sits in the corner of every cell. It is the smell of misery. Then there is the noise, the clanging of steel on steel, the shouting of guards, the incoherent screaming of inmates who have lost their minds in the isolation. It is a cacophony that never truly stops. Then comes the stripping. Malcolm is ordered to strip naked. He stands shivering on the cold concrete floor. His clothes, the zoot suit, the silk shirt, the sharp shoes, are taken away. They are thrown into a pile, just rags now. He is given a uniform, coarse, rough denim. Ill-fitting, it scratches the skin. And finally, the hair. He is sat down in a chair. The prison barber approaches with electric clippers. The buzz is loud, angry. The barber does not care about style. He pushes the clippers across Malcolm's scalp, shearing off the red conch. The chemical masterpiece, the symbol of his assimilation, the mask he had worn for 5 years, falls to the floor in clumps. He is left with a stubble of natural reddish hair. He looks in the mirror. Detroit Red is gone. The mascot is gone. Staring back is a prisoner, a number. He is marched to his cell. It is tiny. A stone box, no running water, a cot with a thin mattress, a bucket. The heavy iron door slams shut. The lock turns with a finality that echoes in his bones. He is alone. In these first weeks, Malcolm descends into a rage. He is like a trapped animal. He paces the small cell, 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. He curses the guards. He curses the judge. He curses God. He curses the Bible. The other inmates hear his fury. They hear his blasphemy. They give him a new name. They call him Satan. He buys nutmeg from the kitchen workers, a poor man's drug in prison, stirring it into water to get a dizzying, sickening high just to escape the reality of the cage. He is hitting the bottom. But it is here, in the absolute darkness of the cell, where the distractions of the world have been stripped away, that a tiny, almost invisible seed begins to germinate. The darkness is necessary, for only in the dark can the light be truly seen. The body is imprisoned, but the mind is waiting to be unlocked. Chapter 9. The Cell in the Dictionary, 1947-1949. In 1948, the environment shifts. Through the persistent efforts of his sister Ella, Malcolm is transferred from the rat-infested dungeon of Charlestown to the Norfolk prison colony. If Charlestown was a grave, Norfolk is a greenhouse. It is an experimental prison, a place that looks more like a college campus than a cage. There are no bars on the cells, only heavy wooden doors. There are paths lined with grass. The air is cleaner here. It smells of soil and rain, not just iron and fear, But the true sanctuary of Norfolk is not the yard, it is the library. Imagine a room filled with light. The walls are lined with thousands of books, history, philosophy, religion, literature. To the average inmate, these are just paperweights. But to Malcolm, who has been shaken awake by a fellow inmate named Bimby, a man who commanded respect not with his fists but with his words, this library is an ocean, and he is realizing for the first time that he cannot swim. Malcolm opens a book. He stares at the pages. He sees the words, but they are like a code he cannot crack. He can read the street signs. He can read the sports scores, but he cannot read the ideas. The frustration burns in his throat. He realizes that his street hustler's vocabulary, filled with slang and profanity, is a cage smaller than any prison cell. He has thoughts, vast and complex thoughts, but he has no vessel to carry them. So he makes a decision. It is a decision of humble, almost monastic discipline. He acquires a tablet of paper, he gets a pencil, and he checks out a dictionary. It is a heavy-bound volume. He places it on the small table in his room. The light from the hallway spills in, casting a long shadow. He opens the book to the very first page. A. Aardvark. He looks at the word. He looks at the definition. A burrowing, nocturnal African mammal. He grips the pencil. He writes the word. Aardvark. Then he writes the definition. He writes it slowly, painstakingly, copying every comma, every period. His hand cramps. His handwriting is jagged at first, the script of a man unused to the delicate art of letters, but he continues. Abacus, abaft, abalone. He copies the entire first page. It takes hours. When he is finished, he reads it back to himself aloud. The words taste strange on his tongue. They are new tools. The next day he does the second page, and the next. This is the sound of a mind catching fire. As he copies, the world begins to expand. The walls of the prison seem to dissolve. Through the dictionary he travels. He learns about the history of empires. He learns about biology, about genetics, about the etymology of words he has used his whole life without understanding their roots. He becomes a ghost in the library. He reads late into the night. When the official lights out comes, he sits on the floor by the door, catching the faint glow of the corridor light on his pages. He reads until his eyes water. He reads Schopenhauer, Kant, Spinoza. He reads the history of slavery. He reads about the Chinese Opium Wars. For the first time in his life, Malcolm is not reacting. He is absorbing. The anger that fueled Detroit Red is not gone, but it is changing state. It is turning from a wild, explosive fire into a focused, laser-like beam. He realizes that the white man's power is not just in his guns or his police or his money. It is in his books. It is in his control of the narrative. And Malcolm decides he will never be weaponless again. He fills tablet after tablet. The dictionary is no longer just a list of words. It is a map of the human consciousness, and he is charting every inch of it. The other inmates watch him. They see the intensity in his eyes. He walks differently now. He doesn't strut like a pimp. He paces like a professor. The Satan nickname begins to fade, replaced by a grudging respect for the man who is always reading. He is still in prison. The guards still walk the perimeter. The time still stretches out before him. But Malcolm is no longer trapped. He has found the key, and it was hidden between the covers of a book. Chapter 10. The Messenger's Voice, 1949-1952. While the dictionary was sharpening Malcolm's mind, a series of letters was arriving to reshape his soul. They come from his family, his brothers Philbert and Reginald. They write to him with a new fervor. They tell him they have found a religion. They tell him they have found a natural religion for the black man. They tell him to stop eating pork and to stop smoking cigarettes. "If you do this," Reginald writes, "I'll show you how to get out of prison." Malcolm is intrigued. He thinks perhaps it is a scam, a hustle to fool the parole board. He stops eating pork. When the mess hall serves the pig, he pushes his tray away. The other inmates laugh, but Malcolm feels a strange surge of power. It is the power of saying no. It is the first step of discipline. Then, Reginald comes to visit. Picture the visiting room at Norfolk. Sunlight streams through the windows. Reginald sits opposite Malcolm. He looks clear-eyed, serious. He doesn't talk about the street. He doesn't talk about the past. He talks about a man named Elijah Muhammad. He speaks of a theology that turns Malcolm's world upside down. He tells Malcolm that the white man is the devil. He tells him that the black man is the original man, the builder of the pyramids, the father of civilization, who was put to sleep by the trickery of a scientist named Jacob. To the outside world, this story sounds fantastical. But to Malcolm, sitting in a prison built by white men, judged by white laws, in a country built on the backs of black slaves, it rings with the clarity of a bell. It explains everything. It explains the lynching of his father. It explains the madness of his mother. It explains the teacher who told him he couldn't be a lawyer. It explains the women who treated him like a pet. It explains the cage he is sitting in. It is not just a religion, it is a diagnosis. Malcolm begins to correspond directly with Elijah Muhammad. He writes a letter. It is humble. He pours out his guilt, his confusion, his desire for redemption. And the messenger writes back. The letter from Elijah Muhammad is brief. It is typed, but it contains a warmth Malcolm has not felt since his father died. The black prisoner, Elijah writes, symbolizes white society's crime of keeping the black man oppressed. He sends Malcolm $5. Malcolm weeps. He is not weeping for sorrow. He is weeping from the shock of being recognized. He, the thief, the drug addict, the Satan, has been seen as a human being worthy of salvation. Now comes the hardest part, the submission. The teachings of the Nation of Islam require prayer, 5 times a day, facing east. But it is not just the words, it is the posture. To pray, one must kneel, one must touch the forehead to the floor. For a man like Malcolm, a man whose entire identity was built on pride, on standing tall, on never bending for anyone, the act of kneeling is a physical battle. Imagine him in the privacy of his room. He stands by the bed. He knows what he must do. He tries to bend his knees, but his legs feel like stone. His ego screams in protest. "You are Detroit Red," it whispers. You bow to no one. He sweats. He trembles. The silence of the room is deafening. But the image of Elijah Muhammad, the man who sent him $5, the man who told him he was the original man, stays in his mind. Slowly, agonizingly, the knees bend. The concrete floor is hard. He lowers his body. He places his forehead against the ground. And in that moment of total submission, the weight lifts. The shame of his past, the burglaries, the exploitation of women, the self-hatred begins to drain away into the earth. He stands up a new man. He is no longer Malcolm Little. The name Little, he is told, is a slave name given to his ancestors by the master who owned them. He discards it. He replaces it with the variable that represents the unknown, the mystery of his true African heritage. He becomes Malcolm X. The remaining years in prison are a blur of evangelism. He is now a man on fire. He debates the other inmates. He debates the prison chaplain. He converts the Christians. He is honing the blade of his rhetoric. He is practicing the speeches that will one day shake the foundations of America. In the spring of 1952, the parole board finally grants his release. He packs his few belongings. He has his glasses, the symbol of his strained eyes and his opened mind. He has his suitcase. He has his suit, now modest and conservative. He walks out of the prison gates. The air of Massachusetts is cool and fresh. He is 27 years old. He went in a criminal. He comes out a minister. He went in a caterpillar. He comes out a dragon. He looks at the world with eyes that see through the illusions. He is ready to meet the messenger. He is ready to go to work. The silence of the cell is behind him. The roar of the crowd is waiting. Chapter 11, The Fisher of Men, 1952-1957. 1952, Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. Malcolm arrives not as a drifter, but as a soldier reporting for duty. He moves in with his brother Wilfred. The house is strict, clean, and governed by the laws of the Nation of Islam. No smoking, no drinking, no pork. It is a monastery in the middle of a metropolis. But the true center of gravity is Chicago. It is time to meet the man whose voice pulled him from the abyss. The meeting with Elijah Muhammad is a scene of profound quietness. Imagine the dinner table in the Muhammad home. It is set with precision. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a small man, delicate in frame, with a voice that is almost a whisper. He has an asthmatic wheeze. He does not look like a general. He looks like a grandfather. But when he speaks, the room tilts. He looks at Malcolm, this tall, red-headed ex-convict who towers over him, and he smiles. He sees the fire. He sees the potential. He tells Malcolm that he reminds him of Job. He tells him that his suffering was necessary to prepare him for his mission. Malcolm is given his marching orders, go out and fish, and Malcolm goes fishing. He starts in Detroit at Temple No. 1, but temple is a generous word. It is a storefront. The linoleum is cracked. The chairs are folding metal. The congregation is small, mostly older people, tired from a lifetime of labor. Malcolm looks at them. He loves them, but he knows that a revolution cannot be built on tired backs alone. He needs the youth. He needs the men he left behind in the alleys. So he goes back to the muddy waters. He walks into the pool halls. He walks into the bars. He walks into the barber shops. Imagine the scene: a cloud of cigarette smoke, the crack of billiard balls, the jukebox playing the blues. Malcolm walks in, wearing his conservative suit, holding his briefcase. The men look up. They see a square. They see a preacher. They smirk. But then Malcolm speaks, and he doesn't speak like a preacher. He speaks their language. He speaks of the tricknology of the white man. He speaks of the police brutality they faced last night. He speaks of the poison they are putting in their bodies. He uses slang. He uses humor. He uses the sharp, cutting logic of the street. He catches them, one by one, the hustlers, the ex-cons, the lost. He brings them to the temple. He moves to New York, to Harlem, to Philadelphia. He is a whirlwind. He establishes Temple No. 7 in Harlem. He stands on a ladder on the street corner of 125th Street and Lenox Avenue. He has no microphone, just his lungs. "Come and hear the truth," he bellows. "Come and hear who you really are." The crowds grow. The storefronts become too small. The Nation of Islam begins to swell. And with the growth comes the formation of the Fruit of Islam, the FOI. These are the men Malcolm has fished from the gutter, now cleaned up, dressed in suits, standing in perfect formation. They are disciplined, silent, and terrifyingly stoic. Amidst this whirlwind of work, there is a quiet interlude of the heart. In 1956, a woman joins Temple No. 7. Her name is Betty Sanders. She is tall, with brown skin, and eyes that seem to hold a deep reserve of patience. She is educated, a nurse, Malcolm notices her, but in the nation, romance is not a matter of casual dating. It is a matter of protocol. He watches her from the podium while he preaches. He sees her devotion. He sees her strength. He is awkward with her. The man who could command a crowd of thousands becomes tongue-tied before one woman. Their courtship is conducted in the brief moments between meetings, in the chaperone-filled drives to museums. He lectures her instead of flirting. He tests her. One day he calls her from a gas station in Detroit. He doesn't ask her out. He asks her to marry him. "Look," he says, "do you want to get married?" She says yes. They marry in 1958. Betty becomes Betty X. She becomes the anchor for a man who belongs to the public. She understands that she will always be sharing him with the movement. She understands that their life will be lived in the crosshairs. But even as he builds his family, Malcolm is building an army, and the city of New York is about to find out just how powerful that army has become. Chapter 12. The Silence of the Hospital, 1957. If you want to pinpoint the moment Malcolm X became a figure of national fear and awe, you must look at the night of April 14th, 1957. It begins with a random act of violence. Johnson Hinton, a member of the Nation of Islam, is walking past a police beating in Harlem. He intervenes peacefully. "You're not in Alabama," he tells the officers. "This is New York." The police turn on him. They beat him with nightsticks. The blows rain down on his head, splitting his scalp open. He falls to the knees, blood pouring down his face. He is dragged to the 28th Precinct station house. Word reaches the restaurant where Malcolm is. Malcolm puts down his coffee. He stands up. He walks to the phone. He makes a call. Within 30 minutes, the scene outside the 28th Precinct is something out of a movie. But this is real. 50 men from the Fruit of Islam appear. They do not run. They do not shout. They march. They are dressed in dark suits, white shirts, bow ties. They line up in formation outside the police station. They stand with their arms folded, their faces impassive masks of discipline. Behind them, the community of Harlem gathers. 400 people, then 500, then 2,000. They are angry. They are ready to riot. But the 50 men in suits are silent. They are the dam holding back the flood. Malcolm walks into the police station. He is calm. He demands to see Johnson Hinton. The police lieutenant is dismissive. "He's not here," he lies. Malcolm points outside. "You see those men?" he asks softly. "There are more coming, and I cannot control what happens if my brother is not given medical attention." The lieutenant looks out the window. He sees the sea of black faces. He sees the disciplined ranks of the FOI. He sees a power he does not understand. They bring Hinton out. He is badly beaten, semi-conscious. Malcolm demands an ambulance. Hinton is taken to Harlem Hospital. Malcolm walks out of the station. He signals to the men. They follow the ambulance. Now, imagine the scene outside the hospital. It is late at night. The streetlights reflect off the wet pavement. 4,000 people now crowd the streets. The police are there in force, riot gear, horse nightsticks. The tension is a wire pulled so tight it is humming. One bottle thrown, one shout, and Harlem burns. The police commissioner arrives. He is sweating. He finds Malcolm in the hospital waiting room. "You have to disperse this crowd," the commissioner says. "This is a powder keg." Malcolm looks at him. He is holding the detonator. "We will leave," Malcolm says, "when the doctors assure us that our brother will survive." They wait. The hours tick by. The crowd outside does not move. The FOI stand like statues. Finally, the word comes. Hinton has been treated. He will live, though he will suffer permanent damage. Malcolm walks out the front doors of the hospital. He stands on the steps. 4,000 pairs of eyes lock onto him. The police grip their batons. Malcolm raises his hand. He holds it there for a second. Then, he gives a sharp chopping motion. In unison, the 50 members of the Fruit of Islam turn on their heels. They begin to march away. The crowd, taking the cue, dissolves into the night. Within 5 minutes, the street is empty. There is no shouting, no looting, no violence, just the eerie silence of a ghost town. A police officer, watching from the sidewalk, shakes his head at disbelief. He turns to a reporter and whispers the line that will define the establishment's view of Malcolm X from this moment on. No one man should have that much power. That night, Malcolm proved he was not just a preacher, he was a general, but power attracts enemies. And the enemies were not just outside the gates. Some were watching from inside the temple, their jealousy growing in the dark. Chapter 13, The Television Era, 1959-1963. By 1959, the whisper of the Nation of Islam had become a shout. The secret society of the storefronts was about to be dragged into the glaring light of the American living room. It begins with a documentary, The Hate That Hate Produced. Produced by Mike Wallace and Louis Lomax, it airs on television screens across the country. For the first time, white America sees the disciplined ranks of the Fruit of Islam. They see the women in white head coverings. And they see the tall, bespectacled minister with the reddish hair and the cutting intellect. Malcolm watches the broadcast. He sees himself on the screen. He sees the fear in the eyes of the white interviewers. He understands immediately that the game has changed. The storefronts are done. The era of the microphone has arrived. Malcolm becomes the face of the movement. He is electric on camera. He is unlike any black leader the media has ever encountered. He does not plead, he indicts. He does not ask for integration. He demands separation. When a reporter asks him a trap question, Malcolm catches it, disassembles it, and fires it back with a smile that is both charming and terrifying. He is everywhere, on the radio, on university campuses, at Harvard, at Yale, at Oxford. He debates civil rights leaders, sociologists, and politicians. He cuts through their arguments like a hot knife through butter. "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock," he thunders to a packed hall, his finger stabbing the air. "Plymouth Rock landed on us." The audience gasps, then cheers. The sound is deafening. But beneath the bright lights of the television studios, in the shadows of the temples, a different kind of drama is unfolding. It is the drama of envy. The Nation of Islam is a hierarchy, and Malcolm is rising too fast. He is eclipsing the sun. The newspapers stop quoting Elijah Muhammad. They only quote Malcolm X. The covers of magazines feature Malcolm, not the messenger. In Chicago, the mood at their royal court of Elijah Muhammad turns sour. The whispers begin. Malcolm is taking credit. Malcolm wants to take over. Malcolm is getting too big for his breeches. Malcolm hears the whispers. He tries to deflect them. Every time he speaks, he begins with, "The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us." He tries to shrink himself to fit back into the box, but he is a giant, and the box is too small. And then the idol begins to crack. The rumors about Elijah Muhammad reach Malcolm's ears. Rumors of infidelity, rumors of secretaries, young women bearing the messenger's children. For Malcolm, this is not just gossip. It is a spiritual crisis. Elijah Muhammad was not just a leader to him. He was the man who saved him from the mud. He was the divine moral compass. The idea that the messenger could be flawed, could be a hypocrite, threatens to shatter Malcolm's entire universe. He investigates. He speaks to the women. He confirms the truth. Imagine the weight of this secret. Malcolm carries it like a stone in his chest. He continues to preach. He continues to defend the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on television, praising his morality while knowing the truth in his heart. The cognitive dissonance is agonizing. It keeps him awake at night. He stares at the ceiling, the streetlights filtering through the blinds, wondering how long a house built on a secret can stand. The sensory world of Malcolm X is now a world of extreme contrast. On one side, the adrenaline of the stage, the heat of the lights, the applause, the adoration of the Harlem crowds. On the other side, the cold, quiet knives of betrayal being sharpened in Chicago. He is walking a tightrope over a canyon, and in November 1963, a gunshot in Dallas will cut the wire. Chapter 14. The Chickens Come Home, late 1963, November 22, 1963. The day the world stopped. President John F. Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas. The nation plunges into a grief so deep it feels like a physical fog. The television networks suspend all programming. The streets are quiet. People walk with their heads down, tears streaming. Elijah Muhammad sends a directive to all his ministers. Silence. Do not comment on the assassination, the order says. If pressed, say only that we are shocked. Malcolm receives the order. He understands the gravity. The country is a wounded animal. To provoke it now would be suicide. But Malcolm has a scheduled speaking engagement at the Manhattan Center. The date is December 1st. The topic: God's judgment of white America. The hall is packed. The air is thick. The audience is waiting for him to speak the unspeakable. They want to know what the firebrand thinks of the fallen prince of Camelot. Malcolm speaks for hours. He holds the line. He critiques the system, the history, the oppression. He follows the directive, but then comes the question and answer session. It is the trap Malcolm always warned others about, and now he walks right into it. A reporter stands up. He asks, point blank, what Malcolm thinks of the assassination. Malcolm pauses. The room holds its breath. The directive from Chicago screams in his mind, stay silent. But his nature, his relentless, uncontainable need to speak the truth as he sees it, takes over. He says that the hate the white man has projected outward, the violence in the Congo, the violence in Vietnam, the violence in Birmingham, has finally circled back. He says it is a case of the chickens coming home to roost. He adds, being an old farm boy myself, chickens coming home to roost never did make me sad. They've always made me glad. The reaction is instant. The applause in the room is scattered, nervous. But the headline the next day is a thunderclap. Malcolm X gladdens at JFK death. The country is outraged. Malcolm is painted as a monster dancing on the president's grave. But in Chicago, the reaction is not outrage. It is opportunity. Elijah Muhammad summons Malcolm. Picture the meeting. It is not the warm dinner of 1952. It is a tribunal. Elijah Muhammad sits in his chair, his face unreadable. The old heads surround him, their arms folded, their eyes glittering with satisfaction. They finally have the weapon they need to destroy the favorite son. That was a very bad statement, Elijah says. The country loved this man. He tells Malcolm he is to be silenced, suspended for 90 days, no speaking, no teaching, no interviews. Malcolm accepts the punishment. He bows his head. Sir, I agree with you, he says. He believes, or tries to believe, that this is just a father disciplining a son. He believes that after 90 days he will return. But as the weeks of silence drag on, the reality sets in. Malcolm retreats to his home in Sir East Elmhurst. For the first time in 12 years, his phone stops ringing. The reporters are told he is unavailable. The Temples are told he is out of favor. He sits in his living room. He plays with his daughters. He watches the snow fall outside the window. The silence is louder than the applause ever was. He begins to hear from his loyalists, the few who still dare to talk to him. They tell him the truth. They are never going to let you back in, Malcolm. They are erasing you. They tell him about the death threats, not from the KKK, not from the police, but from the brothers he taught, from the men he recruited. The realization breaks his heart. The father figure has turned into the executioner. The organization he gave his life to has become his prison. He feels a profound isolation. He is a man without a country. He is no longer Detroit Red. He is no longer the star of the Nation of Islam. He is just a man in a house with a wife and children, watching the wolves circle the perimeter. But in this winter of his discontent, the seed of his final reinvention is planted. If the Nation of Islam is a closed room, then perhaps it is time to step outside. Perhaps the truth is bigger than Chicago. Perhaps the truth is as big as the world. He begins to look at his passport. He begins to look at the map, and his finger traces a line across the ocean toward the east, toward the source. Chapter 15. The Holy City, April 1964. April 1964. Malcolm is sitting on a plane, suspended between the world he knows and a world he has only imagined. He is flying toward Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. He is traveling alone. There are no bodyguards here, no fruit of Islam, no reporters. He has left the United States with a borrowed camera, a suitcase, and a heart heavy with the wreckage of his broken relationship with the Nation of Islam. He is seeking a reset. He is seeking the source. On the plane, a transformation begins that is as physical as it is spiritual. The announcement is made that they are approaching the holy territory. The pilgrims begin to change. Malcolm watches as men from every corner of the earth stand up. He sees dark-skinned Africans, brown-skinned Indians, and light-skinned Turks. They remove their business suits, their national costumes, the markers of their class and status. They wrap themselves in the ihram, two simply unstitched sheets of white cloth, one for the waist, one for the shoulder. Malcolm goes to the lavatory. He takes off his American suit, the uniform of his public life. He puts on the white towels. He looks in the mirror. The minister is gone. The demagogue is gone. Staring back is just a man, a human being, equal to every other man on that plane. When he steps out, the air has changed. The racial tension that has defined every waking moment of his life in America simply evaporates. No one looks at him with suspicion. No one looks at him with fear. They look at him as a brother. He arrives in Jeddah. The heat is a physical weight, pressing down like a heavy blanket. It is the heat of the desert, ancient and purifying. He faces bureaucratic hurdles. His passport is American, but his religion is listed as Muslim. The authorities are confused. A man named Malcolm from America? Is he truly a believer? He is detained at the Hajj terminal, but even in this detention, he finds grace. He is helped by Dr. Omar Azam. He is treated not as a prisoner, but as a guest. He sleeps on a rug. He shares food from a communal plate. And then, the journey to Mecca begins. Picture the drive through the desert night. The sky is a vast dome of stars, brighter than anything seen in the smog of New York. The road is a river of lights, buses, trucks, cars, all flowing toward the center of the Islamic world. They arrive at the Haram al-Sharif, the Great Mosque. Malcolm steps out. He is surrounded by a sea of humanity, hundreds of thousands of people. The noise is not a roar of chaos, but a hum of devotion. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Here I am, O Allah, here I am. He enters the mosque, and there it is, the Kaaba, the black cube draped in silk and gold, the anchor of the Muslim world. He joins the tawaf, the ritual circumambulation. He is swept up in the current. He is shoulder to shoulder with men he would have once considered white devils. He sees blue-eyed men from Bosnia. He sees blonde-haired men from Russia. He walks beside them. They bump shoulders. They sweat together. They pray together. And in this crushing, beautiful unity, the final wall in Malcolm's mind comes crumbling down. He realizes that whiteness is not a genetic curse. It is a state of mind. It is a political structure. In America, whiteness meant Wusserland separation, but here, under the hot sun of Arabia, there is no whiteness. There is only belief. He eats with them. He drinks from the same cup. He sleeps on the same rug. The anger that had fueled him for 12 years, the belief that the white man was inherently evil, dissolves in the face of this reality. He sees that Islam has the power to erase the race problem. He sits down to write a letter. He writes to his loyal assistants in Harlem. He writes to the press. Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in this ancient holy land, he writes. You may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns. He signs the letter with a new name, a name that honors his past and his future, El-Hajj Mosque el-Shabazz. He leaves Mecca a transformed man. The sharp edges of his rhetoric have been rounded not by weakness, but by a wider vision. He is no longer just fighting for the black man in Harlem. He is fighting for the human being in the world. He has seen the mountaintop, and the view is vast. But he knows he must go back down into the valley. He knows that America is not Mecca. He knows the wolves are still waiting. Chapter 16. The Ballot or the Bullet, 1964. May 21st, 1964. The Return. When El-Hajj Malik el-Shabazz steps off the plane at John F. Kennedy Airport, the reporters are waiting. They are expecting the old Malcolm, the fire breather, the hater. But the man who walks through the gate confuses them. He is carrying a cane. He has grown a beard, a goatee that frames a face that seems calmer, more settled. He is wearing a dark suit and an Astrakhan fur hat. He looks like a diplomat. The microphones are thrust into his face. Malcolm! Malcolm! Do you still believe the white man is the devil? He smiles. It is a weary, knowing smile. I believe in human beings, he says. I am not a racist. I don't believe in any form of racism. I don't believe in any form of discrimination or segregation. The reporters are stunned. The headlines the next day are bewildered. Malcolm X changes tune. But make no mistake, Malcolm has not gone soft. He has gone strategic. He has traded the blunt instrument of racial hatred for the scalpel of political revolution. He founds a new organization, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, OAAU. He models it after the Organization of African Unity he saw in his travels. His goal is no longer just civil rights, which keeps the problem domestic, begging the American government for help. His goal is human rights. He wants to take the case of the American Negro to the United Nations. He wants to put America on trial before the world. This is the era of his most famous speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. Imagine the Corey Methodist Church in Cleveland, Ohio. The air is stiflingly hot. The balcony is packed. Malcolm stands at the podium. He is not chanting. He is reasoning. He is urgent. It's the ballot or the bullet, he warns. It's liberty or it's death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. He is telling America that the time for patience is over. He is offering a choice. Give us the vote, give us our humanity, or face the inevitable explosion. He is not inciting violence, he is predicting it, like a meteorologist predicting a hurricane. But while he is speaking to the world, the ground beneath his feet is eroding. The Nation of Islam has declared war on him. They call him a hypocrite. They call him a traitor. The cartoons in the nation's newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, show his severed head bouncing on the ground. He knows they are coming. He sees the men following him. He sees the cars parked outside his house in East Elmhurst. He recognizes the faces. These are men he taught, men he ate with, men he loved. He tries to reach out to the civil rights leaders he once criticized. He meets with Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife, Coretta, while Martin is in jail. He goes to Selma. He is trying to build a coalition. He realizes that the struggle is too big for one man or one ideology. He travels again, this time to Africa as a statesman. He meets with President Nasser in Egypt, President Nkrumah in Ghana. He is treated as the true representative of Black America. He wears dashikis. He speaks of Pan-Africanism. He is building a bridge across the Atlantic. But every time he calls home, the news is darker. They are stalking the house, Malcolm. They threaten Betty. They say you won't live to see the summer. He returns to New York in late 1964. He is exhausted. The jet lag, the constant speaking, the stress of the death threats, it is etching lines into his face. His eyes are heavy, ringed with dark circles. He begins to speak about his death openly. He tells reporters, "I am a dead man already." He says it without self-pity. He says it with the resignation of a soldier who knows the odds. He is racing against time. He is trying to leave a legacy, a blueprint, before the clock runs out. He dictates his autobiography to Alex Haley, pacing the floor of a small Greenwich Village studio, pouring his life onto the page, anxious to get the story told before the final chapter is written for him. The winter of 1965 is cold. The house in East Elmhurst feels fragile. The windows rattle in the wind. And inside, Malcolm, Betty, and their 4 daughters wait. They are living in a house of glass, and the stones are already in the air. Chapter 17. The House on Fire, early 1965. February 14th, 1965. A Sunday morning. The winter in New York is unforgiving. The temperature has dropped, freezing the slush on the streets of Queens into jagged ridges of gray ice. Inside the house at 2311 97th Street in East Elmhurst, the air is thick with a different kind of chill. Malcolm is awake. He rarely sleeps now. The Nation of Islam has won a court order to evict him and his family from the home. He is appealing, but he knows it is a losing battle. He is a man under siege, fighting the government for his passport, fighting the nation for his life, fighting the courts for a roof over his children's heads. At 2:45 a.m., the silence of the night is shattered. It is not a knock at the door. It is a crash that sounds like the world ending. A Molotov cocktail, a bottle filled with gasoline and a burning rag, smashes through the front window. It lands in the living room. The explosion is instant. The fire is not a slow creep. Its spot is a hungry, roaring beast that consumes the curtains, the carpet, the furniture in seconds. Malcolm leaps from his bed. He is in his pajamas. His first instinct is not to fight the fire, but to find his family. "Betty," he screams, "get the children, get them out!" He runs through the smoke. It is black, oily, choking. He finds his 4 young daughters, Atala, Kubila, Eliasa, Gamila. They are terrified, crying in the dark. He grabs them, shielding their bodies with his own. He herds them toward the back door. Betty is pregnant with twins. She moves as fast as she can, her heart hammering against her ribs. They burst out of the basket door into the freezing night air. The cold hits their skin like a slap. They are barefoot. They are in their night clothes. They scramble over the fence into the neighbor's yard, tumbling into the snow. Malcolm stands there, panting, his chest heaving. He looks back at the house. Flames are licking out of the windows now, painting the snow orange. The heat is intense, warring with the biting cold. He watches the structure burn. He watches the nursery where his babies slept just moments ago fill with fire. He realizes then, with a terrifying clarity, that there are no rules anymore. They didn't just want to kill him, they wanted to kill his wife. They wanted to burn his children alive. The fire trucks arrive, the police arrive, but the damage is total. The house is a blackened shell. The family is homeless. The next day, Malcolm stands in the rubble. He is wearing clothes borrowed from a friend. He looks at the reporters. His face is not angry. It is etched with a profound, bone-deep sadness. "I live like a man who is dead already," he says. He moves his family to the house of a friend. He is exhausted. He has no money. He has no home. He has no security. But he refuses to stop. He has a rally scheduled for the following Sunday. He tells his wife, Betty, "I need you to come. I want you to be there." Usually he keeps her away from the danger, but this time he feels something. He wants her to see him. He wants her to witness the work, perhaps for the last time. The week drags on. It is a blur of anxiety. Every car that passes looks like a hearse. Every shadow looks like a gunman. But Malcolm puts on his suit. He ties his tie. He brushes his astrakhan hat. He is walking toward the end of the line, and he is walking with his head up. Chapter 18. The Audubon Ballroom. February 21st, 1965. February 21st, 1965. The Audubon Ballroom stands on Broadway and 166th Street in Washington Heights. It is a faded palace, a relic of an older New York. The paint is peeling, the floors are scuffed. It is a crisp, sunny afternoon. Malcolm checks out of the New York Hilton, where he has been staying for safety. He drives uptown in his blue Oldsmobile. He is tired. He is irritable. He snaps at his aides. "Everything is wrong today," he mutters. The roster of speakers is thin. The crowd is smaller than usual, about 400 people, but there is something else wrong: the police. Usually at a Malcolm X rally, there is a heavy police presence, either to protect him or to watch him. Today, there are almost none. The uniformed officers are nowhere to be seen. The protection has evaporated. Malcolm walks into the backstage area. He sees his wife, Betty, and his 4 daughters sitting in the front row. They look beautiful in their Sunday best. He waves to them. A rare smile touches his lips. It is time. At 3:10 p.m., Benjamin 2X, Malcolm's assistant, takes the podium. He warms up the crowd. "And now," he says, "I present to you a man who would give his life for you." Malcolm walks onto the stage. The applause is warm. He stands at the wooden rostrum. He looks out at the faces. He looks tired, but he is ready. "Assalamu alaikum," he says. "Peace be upon you." "Wa alaikum salam," the crowd responds, "and upon you be peace." He begins to speak. Brothers and sisters, suddenly a commotion breaks out in the middle of the audience. A man stands up, shouting at another man, "Get your hand out of my pocket! Don't be messing with my pockets!" It is a distraction, a staged fight. Malcolm steps out from behind the podium. He raises his hands, the peacemaker to the end. Now, brothers," he says gently, "be cool. Let's be cool." In the front row, a man stands up. He is not looking at the fight. He is looking at Malcolm. He pulls a sawed-off shotgun from under his coat. The sound is not a bang. It is a cannon blast. The shotgun roars. The pellets tear through the plywood of the podium and strike Malcolm in the chest. The impact lifts him off his feet. He falls backward, his hands still raised, knocking over 2 chairs as he crashes to the stage floor. Then, 2 other men rush the stage. They are holding semi-automatic handguns. They stand over his fallen body and fire, again, and again, and again. Pandemonium erupts. Chairs are overturned. People are screaming, diving for the floor. Betty Sanders screams, a sound of pure primal anguish, and rushes toward the stage. "They're killing my husband! They're killing him!" The gunmen turn and run. The crowd catches one of them, beating him, but the others slip away into the smoke and chaos. On the stage, Malcolm lies on his back. His shirt is soaked in blood. His eyes are open, staring up at the high, peeling ceiling of the ballroom. A Japanese-American woman, Yuri Kochiyama, rushes to his side. She cradles his head in her lap. She whispers to him, "It's all right, Malcolm. It's all right." He does not speak. His breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps. Outside, the sirens finally begin to wail. They are too late. They put him on a stretcher. They rush him across the street to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. The doctors cut open his chest. They massage his heart. They try to pour life back into a body that has been emptied of it. But the spirit has already fled. At 3:30 p.m., the announcement is made. The man who was born Malcolm Little, who became Detroit Red, who became Malcolm X, who became El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, is dead. He was 39 years old. Soundscape. The silence returns. It is heavy, final. Then, slowly, the sound of rain begins to fall, washing the streets. A cello begins to play a slow, mournful, but resolving melody. They buried him on a cold day in Hartsdale, New York. The gravediggers stood by with their shovels, but the friends of Malcolm, the men he had taught, the men he had inspired, took the shovels from them. They would not let strangers cover him. They shoveled the earth themselves, weeping, sweating, burying their prince with their own hands. They thought they had silenced him. They thought the shotgun blast at the Audubon Ballroom was the end of the story. But they were wrong. Martyrdom is a strange alchemy. It burns away the flaws of the man and leaves only the essence of the message. In death, Malcolm became larger than he ever was in life. His autobiography became a Bible for a generation. His voice, recorded on those scratchy vinyl records, continued to thunder in dorm rooms and living rooms around the world. He showed us that a man can change. He showed us that a man can crawl out of the deepest pit of ignorance and stand on the highest peak of wisdom. He showed us that the price of freedom is death, and he paid it willingly. The ballroom is quiet now. The crowds are gone. But if you listen closely, in the silence of history, you can still hear him. "Power," he whispers. "Power in defense of freedom is greater than power in behalf of tyranny. Good night."